L'Université McGill est ravie de célébrer les réalisations de Naomi Azrieli. I asked Dr. David Eidelman, Vice Principal, Health Affairs, and Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, to present our distinguished guest so that she may have conferred upon her the highest recognition that is within the power of this university to grant. And I asked Dr. Azrieli to join me at center stage for the presentation of the honorary degree. Dean Eidelman.
Dr. Naomi Azrieli is the CEO and Chair of the Azrieli Foundation, Chair of the Brain Canada Foundation, and President of CanPro Investments Limited and Amico Investments Limited. Building on her background in business and academia, she has spent the last 15 years focusing on strategic philanthropy, providing a model of what is possible when substantial resources are managed with business best practices, bold vision, and commitment. Dr. Azrieli believes passionately in the critical role of the philanthropic and corporate sectors in building Canada's research community, thereby enabling and supporting programs that help all Canadians thrive and prosper. She is also driven by a belief that the most important challenges in science, education, health, and communities often lie at the boundaries between fields. She has devoted herself to multidisciplinary and collaborative initiatives, and in particular, those that nurture talented people at early stages of their careers. À titre de chef de la direction, elle a fait de la Fondation Azrieli un organisme très respecté auprès de ses homologues, des partenaires de gouvernement et des organisations de première ligne. Dans le cadre d'une récente série d'initiatives destinées à modifier le paysage de la science et de la médecine du cerveau, elle a orienté des investissements de la Fondation dans des organisations universitaires, scientifiques et sanitaires qui mènent des recherches novatrices, offrant un enseignement de qualité en fournissant des soins exceptionnels. She has been a strategic driver behind numerous programs and partnerships, including the Azrieli Fellowships Program, the Holocaust Survivor Memoirs Program, for which she is publisher and senior editor, and the Azrieli Neurodevelopment Research Program. As chair of Brain Canada, she leads a national organization that supports the research and platforms of Canada's most promising investigators, with an approach that cuts across disciplines and aims to break down silos. She has been a passionate advocate for Brain Canada's collaborative public-private approach, building partnerships across the country and encouraging new private sector investments, most notably spearheading an initiative in early career capacity building grants. Dr. Azrieli is a founding member of the Transforming Autism Care Consortium and actively involved with several schools and initiatives for people with developmental disabilities. In 2013, she was awarded the Légion d'honneur Francis Hyatt Award of Merit. Inspired by her late father, David J. Azrieli, and in keeping with the vision of her family, Dr. Azrieli believes deeply that everyone deserves a life lived with dignity, a belief expressed through her advocacy for children and adults with neurodevelopmental disabilities. Mr. Chancellor, I present to you Naomi Azrieli so that you may confer upon her the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
I now invite McGill's most recent graduate, Dr. Naomi Azrieli, to address Convocation. Dr. Azrieli.
Thank you very, very much, Chancellor Mann, Principal and Vice Chancellor Fortier, Mr. Panda, Chair of the Board of Governors, Mesdames et Messieurs, bonjour, good morning, everyone, to our proud parents and guests, and most of all, members of the graduating class of 2018. It is a great privilege to be with you today. Je suis très honorée d'avoir l'opportunité de m'adresser à vous et très touchée de recevoir ce doctorat honoraire. This distinction is given in part in recognition of the accomplishments of the organizations I lead. So I want to begin by acknowledging them. First, the Azrieli Foundation, which was established by my late father, David, and is still inspired by his story and his vision. All the members of my family contribute greatly in different ways. My mother, Stephanie, who is here, my sisters, Sharon and Dana, and my brother, Rafi, who is a source of great inspiration. The foundation also benefits from the wisdom of a terrific board of directors, some of whom are here, and the hard work and creativity of a wonderful team. I also want to acknowledge the organization I chair as a volunteer, Brain Canada, which has done so much to support Canada's brilliant brain scientists. Over the last 15 years of my professional career, I have been blessed that my work is meaningful and that I am able to wake up every day aiming to make change and improve lives. Donc, je remercie l'ensemble de mes collègues. Mes succès sont aussi les leurs. I am so grateful to the people with whom I work. None of my accomplishments would be possible without them and without my family, and I share this honor with them. C'est votre journée aujourd'hui. Today is all about you, the graduates, about what you've learned and how far you've come by stretching your minds, by gaining new habits of work, and by persevering in moments of self-doubt, confusion, and anxiety. So before I go any further, I add my congratulations, félicitations. There are people here today who have done much to ensure that you made it. People who supported and enabled you, les parents, les professeurs, les amis, et autres soutiens. Et je sais que vous vous joignez à moi pour les remercier. This is their day too. Congratulations, parents and supporters. A graduation signifies an important moment of achievement and a transition in life. And although I have to admit that I have no memory at all of who spoke at the 3 commencements I attended as a student, and as a result, I will not be insulted in the least if you have no memory of me, I do remember vividly what was going on in the world when I marked the achievement of my degrees. At the time of my bachelor's, the world seemed a precarious, explosive place, structured by the Cold War's mutual assured destruction. When I got my master's, the world was witnessing the shredding of the Iron Curtain and the end of the Cold War. The backdrop to my doctorate was the turn of the millennium in 2000, which brought the burgeoning of the internet, the deciphering of the human genome, and the launch of the first mobile telephone, the BlackBerry, beginning a communications revolution. Now, I share my history not to underline just how much has changed in so short a time, but to point out that we are always at the center of our own narratives, and we always have the sense that we are living in momentous times. Nous sommes toujours au centre de nos propres histoires, et nous avons toujours l'impression de vivre dans une période extraordinaire. Be it positive or negative, we usually have the sense that we are living in the most consequential time there has ever been. With hindsight and context, we see perhaps that it was not as unprecedented as it felt. What I would suggest now is that the time we are in, right here, right now, this moment that you are all about to go out into the world, is possibly the most consequential time in history. Now, just how significant a turning point this will be remains to be seen. On va voir. But we are undoubtedly at an historic juncture informed by global changes in technology and climate, economics, and migration. So here are just 3 of several trends that I see. First, in almost every area of our lives, technological innovation is breaking down old systems and structures, and it is doing so in the context of an expanding human population and a dangerous destabilization of climate patterns. Our planet seems to be reaching its capacity boundary. Second, it is no longer clear that the current economic system can deliver sustainability. Until now, Our economy has underpinned ever-increasing growth, but now seems to be delivering increasing inequality. Third, we are in an era of mass migration, usually triggered by environmental, political, and economic crises, which can and is leading to conflicts between migrant and resident populations. These trends have led to a resurgence of xenophobia just at a time when we need to work cooperatively if we are to find solutions to these crises. So yes, many generations before us have thought that they were living in extraordinary times, but never before in human history have there been so many of us on Earth, nor have we ever been in possession of such powerful technologies capable of affecting such large-scale change. So as we mark your moment of transition today, I am acutely conscious that this is your context. When you look back 30 years from now, I suspect you will note that when you graduated, the scale of world issues seemed overwhelming. The backdrop was uncertainty. The world was lacking in leadership, indeed, willfully ignorant in the leadership department. In a word, the world was scary. The world backdrop to your graduation is fear. Now, as I was preparing for today, I kept wrestling with the topic of fear. I wondered whether this was an appropriate topic for a commencement address, yet I couldn't shake the responsibility I feel to talk to you about fear and how you might overcome it. It's not a topic that actually gets a lot of attention. And this led me to explore the science of fear, what motivates action and altruism in the context of fear. Now, as most of you may know, scientifically, fear is explained by the fight, flight, or freeze survival response, FFF. In the brain, this response is activated by a small set of neurons called the amygdala, which, among other things, when we feel fear, works to limit activity in another part of the brain where logical thought and rational choices are generated. So, problem solving becomes difficult when we're in a state of fear, which is why when we are afraid, we can become visceral and irrational. Fear also turns on the sympathetic nervous system, and when this happens, our heart rates accelerate, our blood pressure increases, our blood vessels constrict, and we experience all sorts of physical symptoms such as shaking and tunnel vision. We literally can't see beyond ourselves when we are afraid, which is why when we are afraid, we often become indifferent, more self-centered, insensitive, mean. Fear really does terrible things to us. And in an atmosphere of fear, such as the one several world leaders are actively trying to create today, some collective actions and policies seem to mirror individual-scale human behaviors. They are nation-first, intolerant to others, short-sighted, unreasonable, and often just plain stupid and mean. Now, somewhat paradoxically, the sense of fear we have about the terrible state of the world is in part a product of the fact that our brains are not very good at assessing the actual state of the world. As it turns out, we are systematically biased toward perceiving, remembering, and predicting bad things. The brain's main goal, after all, is not to be accurate, it is to survive. And from an evolutionary perspective, focusing on the bad things that might threaten us, which is called a negativity bias, gives us a better chance at survival. And so we pay more attention to bad events. We take in their details and remember them better and longer. Keeping in mind this negativity bias, I decided to look again at major trends today and found three contrasting trends to the ones I spoke of a moment ago. These trends also underscore that we are in an unprecedented time, but from another perspective. Trend number one, the incidence of all types of cruelty and violence in the world has been decreasing for centuries. Deaths by international or civil wars, murder, executions, domestic violence have all been falling persistently over time and all over the world. In every developed country, the homicide rate is a fraction of what it was in medieval times. Trend number two, some research shows that the inequality gap is actually closing. and that we will soon have the ability to meet and exceed the basic needs of every man, woman, and child on the planet. Focusing on the dozens of innovators who are making enormous strides in all the basic areas of human need, it is true that technology is destabilizing, and it is also the source of solutions to the world's problems. Finally, trend number 3 relates to the results of the 2016 World Giving Index, which illuminates the question of altruism and caring in our rapidly changing, fear-filled world. Compiling the results of massive polls from thousands of people in 140 countries, the index looked at levels of engagement in volunteer work, charity, and helping strangers in need. Has the world become more selfish, which is what you would expect? According to the index, the answer is a resounding no. Over half of the world's population reported helping a needy stranger every month. Over 1 billion people donate money to charity, and over 1 billion people volunteer their time every month. Moreover, these numbers have been increasing year to year all over the world. So from this quick contrasting review, it would appear that, relative to any reasonable frame of reference, modern human societies today are more peaceful, healthier, innovative, creative, compassionate, and generous. Yet my initial point stands. The world feels scary, and much evidence demonstrates that the stakes have never been higher. The second review simply suggests that we have also never had more tools at our disposal to address these challenges, and that fear is a critical element in our perspective. There are great opportunities to make a difference, to act on an individual and a collective scale if we can figure out how to do so in the context of fear. And this got me thinking about action, because we know some people act in the face of fear. Indeed, instead of being paralyzed or running away or becoming aggressive, they are mobilized by the situation and try to do something. Some examples come to mind. Someone runs into a burning building to save others without thought to their own safety. Or rescuers during the Holocaust who risked their own lives and those of their family to help Jews. People who act under circumstances of great fear are sometimes called extreme altruists. And I learned that they are an object of great fascination among cognitive scientists. One of the latest hypotheses, for example, is that extreme altruists are actually on the same spectrum as psychopaths. That is, people who have no empathy, feel no fear, and actually cannot recognize expressions of fear on the faces of others. Extreme altruists are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They surpass everyone in detecting expressions of fear. They detect fear, respond quickly, and take action. Extreme altruists do experience fear themselves, but it does not stop them. Now, advanced imaging has shown that the amygdala is at work here too. When an altruistic person sees someone in fear, it elicits the same reaction as seeing a baby in trouble, triggering the impulse to care and protect. We are, it would seem, wired for compassion. And yet, not everyone reacts the way altruists do, and it is natural to wonder why. Why, for example, did some non-Jews engage in rescue acts during the Holocaust at the risks of their own deaths, while others did not? Now, this is a big subject with many facets, but some factors are a heightened sense of empathy, the ability to view the victims as individuals, and education toward independent thinking. But the characteristic that was most important is that rescuers felt competent, that they could take action. Taking responsibility required the perception that they could alter events with their own actions, whether or not it was objectively true. They felt that what they did or failed to do mattered. So similar to those who will run into a burning building, they embraced their fear and were motivated by it. Importantly, they were not overwhelmed into thinking that there was nothing that could be done, that they might fail. Now, my exploration of the connection between fear and action and fear and altruism has left me more hopeful than I initially expected. In recognizing and fighting our innate negativity bias and believing that we can influence events, fear can lead to action. Moreover, if we are wired for compassion, then fear itself is not the issue. Rather, it is our response to fear, what we learn to do with it, that matters. And in fact, scientists believe that altruism can be learned and made stronger if one trains the brain to better recognize fear. We can learn to turn fear into action, and it is in action that we find hope. Now, my hope stems mainly from a belief that the solution to the world's problems are unlikely to be found in the system or through governments alone, but rather by the actions of smart, creative, compassionate individuals who believe they can make a difference and who are not afraid to fail. And therefore, one source of hope for me is you. Now, you might think this hope is misplaced or idealistic. I know that in addition to the backdrop of global challenges I outlined, you all have pressing personal issues and needs. You are managing debt, you're on the job search, career paths, dealing with dating. You are quite naturally self-focused and at the center of your own stories. But I also know that the solutions to the profound problems in the world will be found not only in the careers you choose, in what you do to make a living, but in what you do to make a life. Yes, your goal in graduating may be to get a job, but it is equally important to repair the world. In Hebrew, the phrase is tikkun olam, and we can repair a world filled with fear by taking action. Here are 4 ways you can all turn fear into action. The first is that small acts make a difference, or as they say in French, les petits ruisseaux font les grandes rivières. It is easy to feel overwhelmed by all we have to do, by our big challenges, our big goals, and so it is easy to overlook what we can do right now. Your inability to do everything should not weaken your determination to do something. Start small and don't be afraid to fail. Second is give of yourself. Donnez de votre temps. Spend some time when you are not at the center of your own narrative. Volunteer. Interesting fact, volunteers actually live longer than other people, and they also feel pleasure. So you will be doing good, and it will make you feel good in a virtuous loop. 3, collaborate. Allez à la rencontre des autres. Make some of the activities in your professional or personal lives collaborative. It is the dynamic interaction of minds that will push knowledge forward and will lead to solutions to the pressing problems we face. And finally, don't wait for the system. Trouvez les réponses en vous-même. Many answers, many steps to positive progress lie within you. The answers we seek will be found by talented individuals like yourselves who engage, collaborate, and give back. Now, of course, governments and other systems must play a role, and with greater resources than any individual or small group can muster. But the spark and the map does not have to come from there, and most likely will not. My message then is that the world is counting on you, your talent, your action, and your engagement. As a well-known saying from a famous 18th century rabbi goes, the world is like a very narrow bridge. As you go on your journey, the most important thing is not to be afraid. When I began today, I acknowledged what a great privilege it is to be here. And I am acutely aware that I stand before you as a person of privilege. From this position, I have aimed to make a difference, to give back, to overcome my own myriad fears, and to act with compassion, gratitude, and generosity whenever I could. Completing a McGill degree now puts you in a privileged position. Whatever brought you to McGill, you worked hard to get to where you sit today, and you now have the benefit of an amazing education and a degree from McGill. And so I'll conclude by asking you, what are you going to do with your privilege? How will you learn to turn fear into action, into hope? The answer you find just may repair the world. Thank you. Félicitations again. Congratulations.